Muga.
CT Lodge.
Muga, not Muga. He's here, and here's the day's proverb.
One man marries a woman, another man marries troubles.
Is he the same man?
Spice.
A lion cannot eat more than 2 donkeys. It will die a natural death because there is no ICU in the forest. In Kenya, it has become the situation that you cannot conduct 2 elections. In fact,
With the same
Bukati,
IEBC.
You can't.
I told you about this Indian friend of mine who was enjoying other Indians in the group. He wrote the word valve and told them, read it.
So how did he say it? I really want to know.
The valve. Of course, kina Edna, it's the, like you said, the bees and the peas. Kila kitu mkisia kisema atasema opposite.
Opposed?
Ukisema hii anasema opposite. Opposite. Ukisikiliza namna hii unasikia opposite.
The Situation Room. Spice. The only way to start your day. This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
So you are a candidate for this year's KCSE exam and you're thinking, so beyond this, I'd like to go and study outside of the country. Or you have done your A-levels and O-level exams and you're thinking, I'd like to go and study outside of the country. Where would you like to go and study? Consider Ireland. There are several universities that are top universities and colleges in Ireland. One, Griffith College. Another one called University of Galway. Another one is called University of Limerick. Or Technological University of the Shannon. Dublin State University. Independent College, University College Cork. All these universities are in Ireland. And if you'd like to know more about them, it is possible for you to know more about them on the 9th of November. And this is at the official Study in Ireland Fair, where you can meet these top international universities, meet representatives from these leading universities, get first-hand information on admission requirements, on scholarships and study programs. You can learn how Ireland's booming industries can offer a wealth of job opportunities for international graduates. You can also get to expert visa guidance. You meet expert team of visa guidance counselors for all the questions around student visas. They can also just guide you on how to apply for the visas. All this on the 9th of November between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. At where? At Gallant Mall in Parklands. How do you go there? You first need to register with the organizers. That's Cradle. Cradle is spelled as Craydel. Craydel. Now you register by going to their website, cradle.com. Once you register, you will then get invitation. Entry into Gallant Mall on the 9th of November is strictly by invitation only. So only those that have registered prior will have access to all this. It's a good thing to think about. Just go there, learn about these universities, interact with the officials from the universities, ask about questions, all the questions that you have, ask about the courses that they offer, ask about fee payment, ask about scholarships, because many of them have scholarships available. Ask about the scholarships, how you can apply for those scholarships, and even ask about how you get a visa to go to Ireland. How do you get a visa to Ireland? Do they have an embassy in Kenya?
They do.
The Irish Embassy in Kenya.
They do.
Where is it?
Chief, it's exactly where it has been since last year.
Same place.
Same.
They haven't moved? Are you sure they haven't moved?
No, they haven't moved.
Okay. When you go there to Gallant Mall, they'll tell you where the embassy is. And now you can get what? Your visa. So, now let's get into a Justice Thursday conversation. Every Thursday, you know, we try to have a conversation on matters touching on justice. And today, all our conversations will have one or two issues touching on justice. However, the first one is specific to justice for children and how children access justice in an easy, efficient way, enhancing child justice through preliminary inquiry and diversion. We are joined by two ladies. One is the Honorable Lady Justice Teresia Madeka, who is the Judge of the High Court and Chair of the National Council for Administration of Justice Standing Committee on the Administration of Justice for Children, and has been here on the show before. Good morning, Judge.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Karibu sana.
Good morning to you, Eric and Siti. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you
We are
again.
delighted to see you, Justice.
Yes.
Greetings from Ndu.
Yes, I was looking forward to meeting her.
She was looking forward to meeting you too. She was a little bit under the weather.
Okay.
Mwili imesema, everything else was willing. Until.
Kisema tunakubali.
Yeah. Then we also have Honorable Rose Getao. She is a magistrate in the Milimani Children's Court. Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Karibu sana.
Thank you so much.
Yes, we're going to have a conversation around justice for children and how we enhance justice for children. So make sure that children do not go through the rigors that other people go through. Nobody should even be going through any rigors in terms of accessing justice, but we should even make it much easier for children.
Yeah.
Judge, I want to ask you, in Kikamba, how do you say to count?
To count? Kotala?
Kotala.
Not
So-
Kotala. Kotala.
Kotala.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
So tala is to count.
There's a sing-song at the end.
Kotala.
It's not just imekauka kutala. Kutala.
Kotala.
Yes.
Kotala.
Yes, you make it soft.
Very good.
Yes.
So this one here means count.
Tala. There's a place called Tala in
Yes.
Ukambani.
How did that place get its name?
I have no
What
idea.
were they counting? Maybe that's why they started counting the distance. When they say Nova, that's the
Maybe.
center.
Yeah, by then,
That
it's
could be
possible.
0.0
Ground zero for November.
for November from Tala.
Yeah.
Now, Tala is a company that was started and founded in Kenya, all right?
Yes, yes.
10 years ago, as Mkopo Rahisi, then now it became Tala. And it's gone outside of this country. It's in the Philippines, it's in Mexico, and they have been lending money, you know? So one of the things that Tala has done is because of their experience in this country, they have also seen the proliferation of very many of these micro lenders and mobile
yeah.
lenders and the digital lenders. And they said, let's form an association of digital lenders. Let's actually have some form of self-regulation.
Yes.
And from that self-regulation, they approached the central bank and the government and said, can you regulate us? Can we fall under the ambit of the Central Bank of Kenya? So now we have CBK regulations that touch on digital lending.
Wow. That's
And the digital lenders as well are also licensed by the Office of the Data Commissioner. So the ODPC also gives you a license, either as a data processor and on how you're handling data. So Tala is one that has ticked all those boxes.
okay.
And they've been saying we've been here for 10 years. Please try us out. The thing is, Judge, there are people who say, that's Kotalambes and it's surely.
Eh?
Until you're in that situation,
Yes.
when you have been called and you've been told that there's something that's needed at home.
Sahio.
Sahio. You're in your chambers and you're looking and saying, okay, now I don't have enough money here to be able to send. I am in the middle of a session. I don't have time to start call my sister, my brother. Can you sort the, get into Tala, get the money, send, and then when you're finished with your court session, you pay. It is as simple as that. So there are people who don't see that Tala as that kind of companion.
Yeah.
And that's what they'd like you to see.
There's always an
Thank you.
emergency. And why it's called an emergency is because you didn't anticipate it and you didn't plan for it.
It is true.
And then most times it's also inconvenient.
Yep.
And the inconvenience is because you actually do not have that money.
That's so
And
true.
you need it.
Or you definitely do.
Yeah. At that point. Honorable Gachagua, si hata umekubali?
Nimekubali.
Hata umesema yes.
Yes.
Very good. Now, Siti, please welcome the judge and the magistrate with the day's proverb.
Yes.
And Honorable Gachagua, so what you need to do is listen.
Okay.
You'll give us a proverb, and you're going to give us your interpretation of that proverb. The good thing about you here is that there's somebody who's senior, so she has to come before you in answering this.
Can
So,
delegate. Hiyo una delegate. Nasema kabla sijasema kitu sema kwanza alafu nitaongezea.
Jamii kuja nifunge.
Yes.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah.
Our proverbs for this week have been from the state of Libya. Did you know that in ancient times Libya was the name by which this continent was called?
The whole of it.
There are people who called it that. Please understand, ignorance has been there from antiquity. Yes, so it didn't start at yesterday. That when we got independence, then we were trying to get rid of it. It's been there. But did you also know that in the 5th and 6th century, that Libya was actually a center for Christianity?
No.
You heard of Simon of Cyrene, isn't it?
Yes.
Cyrene is in Libya.
Okay, that's new knowledge for me.
Yes, and
I'm happy to-
2.7% of that population is Christian. Now, you may not know, but it's just the truth. Right, the proverb.
Yes.
Walk with sandals until you get good shoes.
Walk with sandals until you get good shoes. Your ladyship, what is your interpretation of this proverb? I have to start with you. Now, if you want to delegate, that's you.
Can we focus a little? We can have a chance to focus.
Each of you gives their interpretation.
Walk with sandals until you get good shoes.
Yes.
Well, literally, it's just that maybe, someone will imagine that sandals are not good shoes and there's something better than sandals, literally. But, the person telling that person that is probably saying this person actually has a walk to take. A walk to for me, I'm looking at it from like today's discussion. Let me bring it home that we have to start this walk from somewhere with what we have. And there's a distance we need to cover to go wherever we are going. And to do that, we have what we have and what we hope to have to make it better. So the longer the walk takes, maybe I need better shoes than the sandals I'm wearing because of the journey I'm going to take. So someone is encouraging me. Hizi sandals umevaa, they can take you a certain distance and ukifika hapo unaweza pata kiatu mzuri ili uendelee na
Umalize
safari.
safari.
Yes.
Very good.
Yes.
Your Honor.
Yes.
My friend, you are on your own.
I would want to look at it in a financial angle, where you're being told that you live within your means in as much as you aspire to get better opportunities. You have to live your means as you work towards getting those better chances in life. Yeah.
Live within your means.
This proverb has received some really genuinely interesting interpretations.
Yes.
Yes. And they're all good and they're all right.
And they make a lot of sense.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, they do make a lot of sense. So November is coming, and November is the month for National Child Justice.
Yes.
What's that, Gach?
Thank you, Eric. We started off with a task force. Let me begin from, and I've talked about it before, which was put there by the former Chief Justice Willie Mutunga, because it was noticed that children who enter the justice system, fall through the cracks at some point and get the short end of the stick. And all the agencies serving children were not working in sync. And around that time in 2016, there were service months actually for other cases. And we noticed that children were not part and parcel of that. So we raised the question, and we were allowed to have a service week for children matters. That has now come to service months during Justice Maraga's time, the month of November was declared the service month for children matters. Why? So that during that time, all the justice agencies can put a pause to other matters and concentrate on children matters, especially expeditiously disposing of those matters. because one of the things that had been noticed was that those cases could take so long. You know, children could stay so much longer in the justice system, in remand, cases taking long, and the issue was that we were not working in sync. You know, the magistrate is trying their bit, the children officer is doing their bit, but we are not working together. So that became the reason, the main reason, to have the service months. But as time has gone, because this is like from 2016, 2017, there we started the service weeks. Since then, we've tried to make it into until now, in around 2020, it became a month. And the reason was that now we need to look at it in a broader sense. What do we do during this month? First, deal with the cases. Secondly, spend time talking to people about the rights of children. Bring together all the agencies and let them look at how well have we collaborated, coordinated together to make children access justice better. How have we improved the justice system? What is missing that we can do together better? So bringing that together. And this year, if I can just jump into that, the unique thing about it is that last year, 2022, we got a new Children's Act. I still call it new. And it brought with it some very good things for children. It brought a new approach to the way we address children matters. That children in conflict with the law were for the first time officially, legally recognized as children who actually are in need of care and protection. That before you start dealing with the criminal side of the child, have you considered the welfare of this child? Have we thought about whether we really have to charge this child with this offense? And before we do that, can we look at what are the push factors for this child coming into this? So the law brought to us something called the PI, the preliminary inquiry. She'll be talking about it. It gave us diversion. We were applying diversion from the international, from the provisions of the CRC, the Convention on the Rights of the Child, but it had not been put in the Children's Act. So it brought us diversion directly into the Children's Act. And then it gave us another thing called the Family Group Conference. All these are new things that are there to help us to help the child who is in conflict with the law to come back to the community a better person. What does that mean? It means that we are now calling upon the parent to be more involved, the community to be more involved, and the justice agencies to just stop looking at the criminal side of this child. Because by the time a child commits a crime, somebody somewhere has let go. And then we are all being called upon to take responsibility. So this year, as you've seen, the theme is quite long. It says, talks about the child in conflict with the law, the preliminary inquiry, the diversion, the family group conference, and then we talk about rehabilitation and reintegration into the community. So that's really what it is this year. But it doesn't mean that other children will not be considered. All the children matters
All children
will be
matters
looked
will be
into.
sorted.
But this year we want people to be aware of these three big things that we have and to breathe life into them.
Okay. It's a big thing, actually. Let me just read the full thing.
Yes, please.
Enhancing child justice through preliminary inquiry and diversion, colon. Promoting rehabilitation, comma.
Yes.
Reintegration, comma.
Yes.
And dignity for children in conflict with the law.
Yes.
That's a lot.
Sumeona.
Kabisa.
Yes.
Now, Honorable Gachagua,
Yes.
you at your court, at the Milimani Children's Court, you definitely deal with a wide array of cases that touch on children.
True.
Right?
True.
So many times when people hear about children, so they think it's children in conflict with the law. So a child has actually been brought because this is a delinquent child who has committed an offense. But what kind of cases do you actually handle in your court? Just give us the very other types
Of cases.
Of cases.
Okay. So we have different type of cases. So we have a child who is a victim, meaning this time around, it's not the child who has offended, but they are the one against whom a wrong has been done. So we have that nature of cases. Then we also have children in need of care and protection. For instance, a child who has been found abandoned. So that child needs to be rescued, needs to be placed somewhere where they can get the care and be provided with their necessary needs. Then we also have the custody and maintenance cases. This is where marriages have broken down and the parents are fighting over who takes care of what, who stays with the children and all that. Then now we also have the guardianship cases where we are having the parents are not there, there's someone else who wants to take responsibility over these children. So that's another area of cases that we are dealing with. Then we also now have the children in conflict with the law, where it's now the child who has offended, and now we need to deal with those nature of cases as well.
These are many cases.
Yeah.
I mean, if you just think about it, children who are victims, these are children who are facing abuse somewhere.
Yes.
And they've been rescued.
Yes.
And in this particular case, not necessarily by their biological parents.
Not necessarily.
And so they have been brought before court, and you have to actually sort out this issue.
Yes.
And I'd assume that one of the things that you have to consider is where to take them beyond this, where they then get the care and protection that they need.
Yes.
How is that different from children in need of care and protection?
Okay. Generally, a child who is a victim is also in need of care and protection because they have already been exposed to the justice system. All right? But that child, you might find that since the offender is not necessarily a relative or a guardian, you'll find that they will find placement easily in the family home. All right? Unlike where a child has been found somewhere near a river, has been rescued, you do not know anything about the family. So that means that you're placing this child probably in the hands of a third party to take care of them in the interim as investigations are being conducted to determine their background, to determine their family relations before you can do the reuniting and all that. Yes.
Okay.
One of the things that is always interesting with regards to children is this is a specific question. When you handle children's matters in the court, what is the age bracket that is mostly represented in these cases?
I think across the board, because we have victims who are as young as 1 year, 2 years. You've heard about attempted defilements, indecent actions against children who are very young by adults. So when you talk about victims, it cuts across the board from the youngest, who could be even 6 months, to the 17-year-old. And then for the child offenders, again, at least the law now has raised the age bracket for child offenders to 12 years. You cannot charge anyone below the age of 12. It was 8 before. With a criminal offense, so across the board from 12. The challenge we have with the specifics is capturing the data. We'll talk about that. Capturing the data for us in the justice system has been a big challenge in terms of how old is the child who is the victim. It is there in the charge sheet, but how do we capture that data to be able to analyze, like you are asking now, so that we can say the number of children of this age have passed through the justice system? We are working on that, on being able to capture that.
What is the challenge? Is it the usual resources?
The systems being put in place. The judiciary has just adopted e-filing now. And we've been trying to have an integrated juvenile justice system in place where everyone in the justice agency can input their data so that all of us can have the common data of the same child who is passing through our hands in the same space. So that has been a challenge. It's being worked on now that everybody is getting digital. But she will tell you, I think, they cut across board.
Because there's a certain part of the question, and you've answered it already by what you've said. I was going to ask, what about the offenders?
Offenders, of course, it's that from that 14 going up, even younger, even below. You can talk about it. You deal with them every day.
Actually, for offenders, the ones we will find in the systems are now those above the criminal culpability age, because even at the police station level, in as much as this child is below 12, they will not push them forward into the system. All right? So in the system, then you will find those who are now 12 and above. All right? So those are for the offenders. As far as those who are victims, actually, I agree with Judge. You will find a 6-month-old baby already under care and protection, a 1-day-old child having been rescued, abandoned. You are having parents who are drunk and never home. They leave these children locked up in the house, and they are as young as, So really, it's cutting across board on all the ages up to 18.
I'm concerned. 12 is young.
Yeah.
What is it that is considered when you determine that particular cutoff point? It was 8, it is now 12. Why was it 8 before? Why is it 12 now and not 16? Why didn't you lower it to 6? Why?
I don't know how to approach that answer, because we would want it to be above 12, because we all know at 12 you still don't understand stuff. But our good lawmakers thought 12 was a good cut point.
And they didn't tell you the reasons because there has to be some thinking and logic behind it. Because I'm thinking of a 12-year-old in the system.
Yes.
As a criminal.
Okay, let me somehow add in some weight into it. It's not every 12 that will actually be in the system. Through the PI, the court can take out 12, 13, even up to 14. During the preliminary inquiry, one of the things that the court is supposed to determine is whether this child is able to distinguish between what is right and what is wrong. If the court is able to discern that that child is not able to make a difference between the two, they'll actually let them get out of the system without going further into it. Yeah, so the law has created that bracket between 12 and 14 where the court can make a determination as to whether they have a criminal culpability or not.
Okay, let's take a break and then we continue the conversation shortly. It's our Justice Thursday conversation as we close October and prepare to open November. We're opening November, which will be the National Child Justice Month, having a child justice conversation. Justice Teresia Madeka, the chair of the NCAJ Standing Committee on Administration of Justice for Children, and the Honorable Rose Getao, magistrate at the Milimani Children's Court. They are our guests. Back shortly. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Hi everyone, you may have heard about the official...
Endelea kufurahia na Star Times. Renew your subscription today to enjoy top entertainment. Lots of fun and adventures on our kiddie channels.
Wow, that's amazing!
Let your favorite stars make your heart flutter on our world-class telenovelas.
You are my baby.
Unmissable football action on the Saudi League, Carabao Cup, La Liga, and the Bundesliga.
This is absolutely wonderful!
Renew your subscription today to enjoy top entertainment, music, movies, documentaries, and lifestyle across our fantastic channels. Download Star Times on app today to never miss a moment. Star Times. Enjoy digital life.
Game starts from the mental preparation of a player. It's not all about that's happening inside the football pitch. Also what happens outside the pitch matters. So we're a little bit affected psychologically.
What do you know about Kenyan football? But is that all? Kenya, a land of endless possibilities and opportunities.
How are we supporting this team for us to be happy the way the girls are going to the World Cup?
There has been no serious investment in sports facilities for a long time.
But who will lead the country towards the right direction? Who will lift the hopes and aspirations of the nation? Is it? Or how about? And what's your take? The FKF presidential debate.
Educating women is empowering society. That is the saying and the narrative that's now sweeping across the world, putting forward empowering and educating women, more so from the marginalized communities. octopus, or locally known as pizza among the coastal communities, has been a common delicacy among this community for centuries. But with the inception of Octopus Closure, a project that was initiated by comrades, this project is now turning the local delicacy into the mainstay of revenue among thousands of households. For Culture Quest, I'm Levis Msumba.
Hey, inakuaje Waresh na Wahesh? Manze, this is Kubash in the hood. Na unajua kila kitu si uifanya aje?
Na mafinyo. Weka finyo, ongeza finyo. Weka finyo, ongeza finyo. Jua ki bless, yo bless na mafinyo. Ni juicy. Flavor zote tamu tena fruity. Are you bored? Kuna vitu zinakuudhi, sijali my bro. Hebu kama taka juicy juu ni juicy. Flavor zote tamu tena fruity. Are you bored? Kuna vitu zinakuudhi, sijali my bro. Hebu kama taka juicy juu ni.
Court is our guest alongside the Lady Justice Teresia Matheka, who's judge of the High Court and chair of the NCAJ Standing Committee on the Administration of Justice for Children. Honorable Gachagua had just told us about the kind of children and how they deal with them when they come in and the children are in conflict with the law, sitting the age of 12. And then she said, well, the court then has some leeway to determine whether the child then continues with the process or other alternative measures are taken. You had a question to follow up on that.
I had many questions. I'll condense them into just one.
Yes, please.
The task that is before the court, I have to ask, do you have the assistance of people who understand just the basic subject of psychology and those who perhaps are trained in counseling psychology? I ask this because the process of determination, comprehension of wrong, right, a 3-year-old can understand wrong, right, but the import of what it is that they have done, that they may not comprehend, because even with full grown-ups, that can be an issue. Somebody knows it is wrong and right, but what it entails and the consequences therein is probably lost on them.
Yes.
Now, why I ask this question is because when you then say, for instance, determine this child comprehends and ought to be taken into the system, and you take them to a remand home for children, it's supposed to be a correctional center, but it doesn't quite work out that way. The correction tends to be left as opposed to right. What goes in comes out worse.
Yeah.
Now, there's something the court surely must be. You know this better than we do, because now it's like we are creating repeat offenders. What is it that the court has thought of to ensure that this particular problem that we currently have is mitigated against?
Okay. Maybe before you answer, I can just say something small, then she'll talk about the practical bit.
Yes.
Our law now actually has brought on board the other players, the counselors, the psychologists, the psychiatrists. There are very clear provisions in that the court must actually apply, bring on board these persons. When we are handling our matters, that you can actually call out for a report, for an assessment by this a psychologist or a counselor if you need it, not only for the child but for the family if the family needs it, so that we are able to get to the bottom of what exactly the issue is. And when we talk about diversion, for example, and she'll talk about the practicalities about it, it's that the whole idea is to find the root cause of this child offending. And as a judge or as a magistrate, I may not be able to find the actual root cause of this thing. I need the support of other people who are not within the justice system. And that would include the counselors, would include the social workers, would include even the family members who might know these things. And somebody will need to go there and talk to them and tell us and bring the information to us and say, actually, this is what is going on in this home or in this community that is causing these children to do some of these things. And in their daily work as children courts, I think they deal with those. So, Muhesh, you can talk about that.
Yeah. Let me talk about the preliminary inquiry, because basically it's during this session that you're able to determine all these things. Yeah. So the preliminary inquiry is supposed to be the very first attendance in court of this child. So it's the very first time they are brought to court. So unlike an adult where their very first day will be the date when the charges are read to them, in this case, we did with it differently. The very first day should be a day when we consider a report by a children officer. That officer ought to have done some background checks in relation to this child and all that. We also get reports from a probation officer. They're supposed to do a social inquiry because, remember, the community know this child better than we do. Even at the police station level, it's just a complainant who has gone and said XYZ has done 1, 2, 3. But even that officer doesn't have the social background of this child. So then a probation officer goes back home, talks to the parent, talks to the neighbors, talks to the chief, and they are able to understand what is the social background of this child, what are actually their needs, because you might realize that it's out of necessity that probably this has happened. So they are able to determine what are the needs of this child, and they are able to bring that information forth during this first day session. Now, during this very first day session, again, if the court finds that in the reports there is something that is missing, the court can ask for further reports, and that's when we will look for psychologists. Let's say the reports by the first officers in this case, the children officer and the probation officers, have highlighted an area that you feel, I need more information on it. There is a mental health issue with this family. That is when now the court will direct, kindly take this child to this facility for this kind of assessment. Then you will come back and reconvene. Now look at it now holistically and see where do we go from here, or even start and determine how did we even get here, because that is what now directs you next move. Yeah. Yes.
Because at that point they have to determine, do we really have to charge this child with this offense? Remember, the child has come as a suspect for an offense. The DPP has already received a complaint, everything is there. But now this sitting will determine, do we need to charge this child or do we divert this child at this point?
Okay.
So when the court decides diversion, then they have to take them to a program outside the system where they'll go and get that rehabilitation they need. If they need to charge, then the matter will be referred to the court that will deal now with the charge, and that other process can continue.
Typically, how long does this take, the preliminary inquiry?
Okay. What happens is actually in the background, because by the time this first day, the first appearance, that is when the preliminary inquiry is supposed to be conducted. But in the background, a lot needs to have happened. So a complainant has lodged a complaint at the police station level. So it's up to, at the police station level, that's where the police officer is supposed to get in touch with the children officer, because that is the first call that they're supposed to make. Then the children officer comes in and they start gathering this information in the background, such that by the time the matter is coming first in court, the reports are already there. But then in some instances, you'll find the report will not be ready for some reason. So then you would request that you have a probation officer prepare for you the report, you have a children officer finalize their report, and then you reconvene at a later date, probably after 7 days, and you now do that exercise when you consider those reports. Again, even at the ODPP level, they are required under that act, the 2022 Act, to also have a report. They should be certain of their decision to charge. Yeah, they should at this point be telling you, take it to the bank. My evidence is solid. I will get...
This child is culpable.
Yes. So they should be that firm even in their decision. So those are the three things that we consider in the very first sitting.
Okay, Your Honor. So typically, how long does this take?
To do the preliminary
The whole
inquiry per
point.
file.
Yeah, by the time now we are deciding
done.
we are going to put this child on his or her defense.
At
From
this
the
point-
moment,
no,
because
at
we're
this
looking at
point-
typically, yeah?
At this point, there's no issue of defense.
There's
It's
no
an
defense.
issue of determining
Yes.
whether you're charging the
Or
child,
Whether the
a
child...
charge will be brought,
will
like
be brought.
they'll be taken to a court to take a plea, or whether
not.
at this point you are just saying, no, we don't have to charge this child with any offense.
Okay.
Wacha sahi kwanza aende nyumbani,
Okay.
akashughulikiwe in a certain way.
I get
so
it.
it may take a week, I think,
Yeah.
because
A week
of
from the moment a
the-
complaint is
the-
lodged
yes,
with the police.
it may take a week because of these reports that are coming in.
Okay.
Yes.
Is that what actually happens?
Yeah,
Because we
some
look at-
courts, some courts do that.
We look at a case has been reported. You know, where does the system begin? The system begins at the police station.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So, say an offense has been committed.
Yes.
and somebody has determined that this is the person who's committed the offense.
Mhm.
The person happens to be a minor.
This child, yes.
Right?
Mhm.
This child then is reported to a police station.
Mm.
The police have got to start doing the arresting, and then they start the whole process of let's bring in a children's officer. Children's officer alikuwa busy, sijui leo ndio alikuwa ameenda Tala kudili na kesi ingine.
Yes.
Amerudi. Kesho alikuwa anaenda wapi? So how long is that taking? And then this file is prepared, it's taken to the DPP. The DPP then is going through the whole motion of decision to charge.
Actually, the PI starts the moment the file is brought.
Okay.
That's when the PI, to the moment the child is brought to court, that's when the PI begins. Yes? That's the moment, because the PI he convenes all these stakeholders. They are convened by the magistrate. All of them, the DPP, the children officer, the probation officer, the child is there. If the victim is also present, they are there. It's like a meeting to see, do we have to charge, do we have to take this child to the court system, or we can actually finish with it here? So everyone sits like at a round table and discusses this. So the children officer ought to have brought their report from the day, because the day the child arrives at the police station, the police officer immediately informs the children officer, I have a child here that I'm to take to court within 24 hours. I need to go with your report. So whatever report they'll have gathered, they need to come with it. So the others and the DPP should have their own report, because they have already received a file, so that they bring it together with when they're coming for this meeting. The report that may take longer would be the one for probation, because this one is after this has taken place, but they are present. So it's expected it will take a week at most, and it can be adjourned, and the magistrate has to decide, what do I do with this child, as I've adjourned this matter, waiting for these other reports to come. But it is expected to take the shortest time possible, and that's why, and you know, it's a new thing, so we are all beginning to practice it, and you want to make sure that it's done in the shortest time possible, so that the child does not have to wait for long to know their fate. Narudi nyumbani, naendelea shule, ama naendelea na kesi kushtakiwa. And also for us to determine the best ways to handle the child's issues, as we are dealing with the criminal aspect of what the child has done.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there are several cogs basically just moving this whole thing.
Yes.
Are all of them aligned? Are they well oiled? Are they actually moving at the same time? From what you're seeing so far?
Yes. From what I'm seeing so far, I can say there's good progress. Just like any new thing, there will be challenges here and there. But then currently, I would say the response from the different stakeholders who are needed is actually good. Yeah. But obviously, teething problems will always be there. So you will find that ordinarily you will take now up to 7 days to get that assessment and that report done for you to be able to arrive at the decision whether or not to judge, you know. And when you look at it again, when you look at the number of people who are actually even needed to be present for this inquiry, it's also an uphill task, because you need a children officer present, you need a prosecutor present, you need a probation officer present, you need the child. That child needs legal representation. That child needs the parent or guardian present. Then you also need to have, there's one more person.
Don't worry.
The
You remember, just
the complainant. Thank you. The complainant need to be present, because when you're making this decision, the complainant's opinion need to be considered as well.
Yeah.
Okay? So really, it is not entirely a court's decision per se, whether or not we are diverting. It's actually like a committee that is sitting, and you're looking at the circumstances surrounding this child, and you're all agreeing, I think the best route for this child is this. So the record should have, what did the prosecutor have to say about it? What did this probation officer have to say about it? What did the complainant have to say about it? Then there has to be a consensus. Actually, there is like a checklist that you have to tick to confirm that this and this and this and this has been met. For instance, what is the nature of the offense? There is an offense that you cannot divert. All right? How many times has this child offended? Right? You can only divert if this child is a first and second offender. If this child is a third offender, it becomes an X. And the test is cumulative. It's not either or. You know, is the parent in agreement with the diversion? No. Again, it goes out. It goes back to the second option, which is now the criminal justice system. Because the way the law is couched is that In the first instant, the court shall divert. So we are not having discretion, not unless the tests have not been met. So once the tests have been met, then that is when now this committee agrees there are different levels of diversion depending on the gravity of the offense. So we say the offense is not so serious, let's try level 1. It's a bit lenient because even the duration is a bit shorter. So it's up to 3 months. So even a simple apology could suffice depending on the nature of the offense. The child just failed to go to school, for instance. It's just something very simple. It's not something quite complicated. But if the offense is a serious offense, then you find that you are going almost up to level 3, or doing actually moving, escalating from level 1 to level 2 up to level 3 until you get some sort of the child really reforming and doing what is right.
Maybe you need to explain that there are different levels of diversion depending on the seriousness of the offense or the circumstances.
To start with, what is diversion?
Yes.
Because the whole conversation here
is about diversion.
We are trying to, as much as possible, divert this child from going into this deep end of the system. What is diversion?
Okay. Diversion is an alternative way, other than the criminal justice system. It's an alternative to it. It's an alternative way through which you can make the child recognize the mistake and actually atone for it without going through the system. Okay? So the alternatives are different depending on the circumstances. That's where the levels come in. All right?
Yes.
So now, depending on what the child has done, then we can do different options.
Yeah. So if you look at even our constitution at Article 159, it encourages. We are told as an institution that we encourage every litigant who comes before us to look for alternative ways of settling that dispute. So it begins from there. And for children, we have not had, especially for the criminal matters, there's been this concentration on wapitie tu waende, what is it called? People used to call them approved schools, but now rehabilitation centers. Let them go to that place. But now, the fact that we recognize the nature of, the child, the age of the child, their vulnerability, their best interest, their welfare, the issues then, as we were saying earlier, we come back to what is the welfare of the child and the best interest in determining how do we ensure that this child does not commit another offense or, like he was saying, escalate to the next level of committing crime. So diversion comes in as a way at any stage. Actually, it can happen at the beginning, or as you go along, you might find, no, I don't have to proceed with this case the way it's going. And even at the end of the case, when you determine the matter, those orders, one of the ways of dealing with a child is to give an order under the provisions of diversion. That is, under the section that provides for diversion, the different levels say what the child should be doing when they are under diversion. So when you come at the end of the matter, for example, you may find, no, certain orders can be made within the diversion system to say this child can go home and be taken through a certain level of the diversion provisions. So it is different programs or interventions that have been put in place, or we must be put in place because we don't have all of them now. And that's why we want to talk about this, that we are all required to come together and within the community find programs or interventions or things that children can do when we say they are out there on diversion, because we may need them to be supervised by for example, you were telling me about a child reporting to the probation officer when they're out there. But you might even need to have them be reporting to a counselor or an institute or to go for a vocational training or something. So if all the people who are in that team are able to work together as a team and bring together a good program for this child, then you find that at the end of the period, maybe there'll be better compliance. And when you do the assessment, which she will talk about how she determines whether this child has completed their diversion successfully, we'll be able to say that, yes, this child is rehabilitated and they can go back and be reintegrated in society properly.
So there's a graduation? Yes. out of this diversion.
Kuna assessment is...
How do you do that? How do you determine?
You see, after you've chosen the level, for instance, let's say it's running for 3 months, this child has been told to report to a probation officer, for instance. At the end of the 3 months, you should be able to come back. This committee that sat all right? And the probation officer should be able to give you a report that during the period, this is what and what and what has been accomplished, all right? Then the committee should be able to make a decision. Are we satisfied that we have met what we had set out to do? If it is satisfactory, then you actually close that file because there's nothing else to do. We have tried to, you see, change the course of the life of that child. If it is not successful, you can give them a further 3 months because they have been non-compliant, and they should be able to also give you an explanation. You are required to report every Friday. How come you missed 3 Fridays out of the 3 months that you are supposed to go? And then you can tell them, now, because I'm trying to teach you responsibility by the end of the day, yeah? So we will extend the period from 3 months to now 6 months. Again, you reconvene. Once it is successful, you just close the file and you let the child go on with their life.
Okay. So for like a minute as we conclude, tell us about this next month.
Yes.
When you say now we have a focus on children matters, what happens?
As at 30th of September, we had over 9,500 cases pending for children in conflict with the law across the country.
9,500.
That means those are children who are waiting for their cases to be heard. And for children in need of care and protection, the numbers have been given are over 15,000. Those are cases that are pending. So when we say, and the average period of time that a case takes actually is over 400 days. For children in conflict with the law, 414 days. That's the average period for disposition from day one to the last day. So you can imagine a child waiting for more than a year. And we are saying this matter should not take more than 6 months. Because when a child is waiting for their case to be heard, a lot has stopped.
Yeah.
For some of them, they are not going to school. Yeah. So why we need people to come together and deal with this is so that we stop what we are doing and see how, whether within this month we can expedite as many of these cases as possible. Children have closed school, so they are available as witnesses. They are available as victims to give evidence in their cases. They are available in every other justice space that they are required to be available to come and testify and to have their cases heard. So all the magistrates and judges, because there are also matters in the High Court for children, and all the other stakeholders are just being called upon to come together and deal with this.
Focus on matters of children.
Yes, and courts have prepared the lists of cases. Course lists have been sent out so that the advocates who are pro bono, most of them are pro bono, the counselors who are pro bono, the mediators who are pro bono, because they come and help to settle these matters. Those ones that require mediation, the mediators are on board, the counselors are on board, the lawyers are on board to help us deal with these matters.
Your Ladyship, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Asante sana. Justice Teresia Madheka is chair of the National Council for the Administration of Justice, Standing Committee on the Administration of Justice for Children. What's your station now, Judge?
I'm in Makueni.
You're in Makueni?
Yes.
Aha.
Nakaribishwa huko. But today we are having the launch of the service month at Kirigiti Rehabilitation Center
in Kiambu County.
And unakaribishwa. The Honorable the Chief Justice will be there, and all of us are headed there.
Wasalimie.
Yes.
The Honorable Rose Gachagua is a magistrate at the Milimani Children's Court. They've been our guests for this Justice Thursday conversation. You know, there's a lawyer in one of these Rigiji cases in court who was addressing the judge and said, you guys as you retreat to. So you guys as you...
Yes. And you guys as we leave you behind.